Welcome to the Spiritually Lit meeting. Each week, we're honored to host powerful speakers from around the world sharing their stories, experiences, and hope with us. All of our speakers are recorded and shared through our Anogram YouTube channel and audio speaker WhatsApp group so the message can reach those who need it. If you're listening to this recording and you're struggling, seeking help, or simply have a question, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can contact us anytime at spirituallit24@gmail.com, and we promise to get back to you. Tonight, we've invited Donna J to share her experience on the topic, Our Whole Attitude and Outlook Upon Life Will Change, for the next 40 minutes. After that, the meeting will be opened for sharing back. Donna, we will give you a sign 10 minutes before your time's up. Thank you so much for making the time and come and share with us your experience on this topic. And with that, I'll hand it over to you. Yeah, I see.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for this meeting to invite me to be here with you today. My name is Donna, and I'm an alcoholic and addict, and my sobriety date and clean date is August 5th, 2000. That was the day that I was surrendered. I did not stop. Like most of us, my problem was I couldn't stay stopped, but there was something different that happened to me. I didn't know what was going to happen that day, but it did happen. I'm reading Bill's story, and he saw Evie and he didn't quite understand what had happened, but he knew that something had happened, and that's how I felt on August 5th. The one thing that I did know that was real clear was that I never would have to drink or drug again. And I even said this to my mom, and I had never said anything like that with such clarity and such conviction. So here it is almost 25 years later, and I'm asked to speak about my outlook and my attitude. And before I can even, say, can I even talk about it, has my attitude and my outlook changed? And I can honestly say that it has, not with a lot of finally seeing what I could never see about myself. It's amazing that we get here and we realize that our responsibility is to bring hope to someone. See, I didn't understand that that was recovery, that something has to happen to me on a very deep level. I was too busy focusing on everything outside of me. Everything outside of me had to be in alignment. And I come to find out how selfish that is, because I expected the world to evolve around me. I wanted you to love me. I wanted you to care for me. The word need. When I do inventory, I realize I had a lot of nerve. I want you to love me, but I'm not loving me. And that rocked me. A lot of things rocked me when I was willing to go to any length. And the willingness to go to any length, all of a sudden I start being able to hear. I now know the difference between listening and hearing. See, when I'm listening, I got this other voice that's also competing with what you're saying, and it's telling me that something that, oh, don't believe it, or it's not going to be true. I was given an assignment recently by my sponsor, and it was probably the most uncomfortable assignments I have been asked to do. And that was not look at any clock, not look at any watch for the first 8 hours of my day. And as he's given me the instructions, I could not hear, because my mind was telling me, well, how are you going to know when you got to be there and when you, and I realized that my mind is so focused on time and what I'm going to miss out on. And, it's just like being in a car and I'm a passenger and I don't know where I'm going. I can't have a comfortable ride because I'm worried about when I'm going to get there. How come I'm not there yet? Are you going the right way? But then on the way back, I can have a comfortable ride because my mind already knows. So I'm able to look at just normal life situations and see my thinking. And so, this August 5th, 2000, that was the day that I embarked on this new way of life. I think that the life that I had been living as an alcoholic and addict was needed if I was going to be willing to go to any length to live a life led by God. See, I had to live my life like I was dying. I had to get to a place that my mind, the self that I created, had run out of options. And I think that's what happened on August 5th. There was nothing left to try, man. I thought killing myself was going to be the solution. And then today I realized that it required dying, but not physical death. And so has my attitude and my outlook about life changed? See, I was not even a part of life. I was living my life apart from life. Because it's very unnerving when you don't know why you're living the way you're living. And it's not like I didn't have good role models in my life. And I couldn't explain it. And I'm getting angry because I'm seeing the people around me succeeding. And they were at the same starting place as me. And so I began to isolate. I didn't want to be around people that were going to ask me, "Oh, Donna, what's up?" Because the best that I can tell them was, "You just don't understand. You just don't understand." That was my comeback. But then I found a lot of company with people like you. And I became a part of the we. Realized this thing was my master. It's crazy. I read how this mental fog settles down. This thing, I don't know how long it's going to take me for me to not share about this mental fog. But it's I see the power of God when I see the power of alcohol and drugs. That fog settled down, and no matter what I wanted to do, no matter what truth I wanted to believe in, it settled down, and I let it. Time and time again, I'm letting it settle down. I'm letting it settle down. And it's telling me what it wants me to do, and it wants me to drink, and it wants me to drug. See, the more I see what I was able to escape from, the more I see the power of God. The more I see, okay, wait a minute, now that I'm not drinking and drugging, I don't know how to live my life. See, I was 45, 44 years old. I was just starting to be on some sort of trajectory that had some consistency. Because, see, I was good for starting and stopping. And trust me, a lot of doors opened up for me growing up in New York City. I had an opportunity to be on a hair magazine. I came outside after the photo shoot. Too many people were looking at me. I ducked in the doorway and wiped the makeup off. I don't want you to look at me. Opportunities opened up. You know how I walked into opportunities afraid. Let me look around. I don't know if I should be here. I don't know what I was supposed to do. So now that I don't have anything to help me escape, I realized I was screwed. How am I going to live? That's why I'm so grateful that in 2001, when there was not a lot of people in the big book, you guys are man, there's so many big books. You go on Facebook, there's so many big book studies and big book workshops, and people are taking people through the work. Thank God I had a deep first step experience, because I was finally able to see what I couldn't see on my own thinking. I didn't realize that my whole life was a series of unsuccessful next times. And I'm reading somebody taking me through this book line by line, and I'm like, damn, I felt like I was giving myself permission to finally discover what was wrong with me. See, I'm no different than the rest of the human race. I worry about what people think. Rashid used to say, Donna, get off the people. I didn't know how to get off the people because my whole life was contingent upon what you thought about me. I'm focused on your behavior, your personality, to do what? Not so much to judge you, but I'm judging me. I stayed in a relationship that was making me real sick, and I was afraid to let go of the relationship because I was afraid to find out that if I no longer have anybody to complain about, I might discover the problem is me, and then what do I do? But God placed people in my path that had that it lit. See, I didn't know what it was, but I just knew that they had what I always wanted. Remember how Bill looked at Abby? He said, I don't know, there's something different. We don't know what it is, but we see it. And Abby just stood there. He didn't even say anything. That's why it's so powerful when we make 9-step amends. When they look at us and they go, damn, before we even open up our mouths, they're looking and saying, wait a minute, something happened to this person. Am I a demonstration of God's power, God's love, and God's way? Has my attitude changed that I realize that my responsibility is to be in position, not to try to be a great big such a much or big Willie Bobo? I'm supposed to sit here, right now, and realize that there's nothing for me to be afraid of because I'm part of a we. I'm connected. I am on the vine. I'm a branch on the vine with you. See, my attitude had to change because I had to see that I'm not separate. I'm not seeking what I already have. I have the spirit within. But I need to recognize that I'm connected to it. And so it's interesting as I'm doing step one and I get to the end of step one, because for me, the first time for anything is powerful. So the first time I got to see, well, damn, this is the best that I can do, relying on self. God, please set aside everything I think I know. Allow me to sit in some uncomfortability. It was real uncomfortable. Because if I admit that on my own, I don't have any power and I need something to live, that means I have to finally be addressed to the conception of relying on God. And I was a product of Catholic school, 13 years, including kindergarten. We were so arrogant that we would smoke reefer and debate about Jesus. And now you tell me that's the solution. But guess what? There was something, I knew that something happened to me on August 5th. I knew that I was reading that book. I saw the meanings behind the words because the words are just symbols on a page. Cat is just crying because she wants to go outside. And it's interesting because we didn't have recordings back then. I never forget. I'm sitting across from Loretta and I'm writing furiously. I'm looking, I'm writing, I'm looking, I'm writing. We would leave the workshop and we just stand on the corner on 136th Street and Lenox Avenue, having another meeting because we finally were being hearing something that was speaking to our hearts that finally started to make sense. You start building a fellowship with people, other seekers. And so something starts to change. I remember when I did my first honest prayer with God, it was powerful because I'm telling you, I went to Catholic school for 13 years and I started to realize it wasn't, I didn't honestly realize this death of self thing where I'm not going to rely on my mind, believing I'm separate from you and separate from God. I was doing my first fear inventory. I was willing to make my third step, make this decision. I was going to turn my thinking and my actions over to God. And the thing is, I've never used the word will ever before in my life until I came into AA. Like, what's will? And it hit me. It's like if I am supposed to rely on this power, that means giving up all control. Now, the thing that's crazy is that I didn't have any control when I was drinking and drugging. I thought I had control. That was the lie. But it's crazy. I was able to have this thing, this mental fog settle down over me, and I had no power to fight it, but yet I'm afraid about not having any power and control with God. And it was a prayer. I was like, God, I'm willing because I saw evidence in the people before me. And I said, God, I feel like I'm on a cliff, high up on a cliff, and I'm willing to jump. But I was one thing I wanted to know. Are you going to catch me? Are you going to catch me? Stayed in the center. I had great teachers. I had some people that we were trudging. We were going to meetings all over New York City. We'd find in every meeting. Saw some stuff in full. And I was finally able to see, wait a minute, I am no more or no less than any other human being. There was something that happened in me, and it started happening when I was asking God, God, please reveal to me who should be on these lists. I realized it's not a threesome. It's not me, my mind, and God. Keep my mind out of it. And I was willing to keep my mind out of it when I realized that my mind has done nothing but lie to me. Suddenly, things are coming on the paper that I know I wasn't thinking about. So when people ask me, Donna, how did your willingness to believe turn into faith? It was when I started putting pen to paper. I didn't try to think, because if I'm transferring my thinking and my actions over to the care of God, when I put pen to paper, it's not what I think, because then I'm moving God out of the way. And I was rocked. As I'm writing, I'm actually seeing perceptions of people from an entirely different way. I hated my mom, and as I'm writing about my mom, I'm actually seeing childhood situations where my mom was showing up as a loving mom. Attitude and this outlook that changes, all of a sudden, the more peace, the more oneness I have with the spirit within. You know, Rashid used to say, it never gets more complicated than one. See, I was around some people, they were saying some stuff. Trust me, I didn't really get it. It just made sense. And he calmed me down and he said, Donna, this ain't about catching up, it's about catching up. And I was willing to believe him. There was something that lit the light. Confidence when they spoke about this path. When they say we shouldn't be shy on this matter, I should not be afraid to talk about God and what God did for me. Living at home at 44 years old with no money, no key to get into the house. By the way, my mom gave me a key to her house recently, which is pretty symbolic. I get to see that this attitude, there's this knowing, and I don't know how to describe it. I think the only way to describe it is to experience it. I think this is a journey of experiences. I've experienced where in 25 years when I believed the lie that I didn't have time to pray and meditate, and all of a sudden I realized that all of a sudden everything that was important was about me. It started to get real uncomfortable again. back in the work again. I had an experience recently with my sister, and how does my attitude, my outlook, I can see the change. When I can feel envy, when I can feel jealousy, it feels like it pierces me. Like I'm so conscious of it today. And that makes me very uncomfortable because, see, I've been brought to a place that my life, for the most part, is very sane, very calm, very peaceful. I don't need to entertain myself. I don't need to be doing things. I can be okay, but I can always tell when there's a belief system, something triggers some old idea. It's like this imposter, this self still wants me to look at things outside as what I need to be okay. And all of a sudden I forget the role that God assigned. I get to, with my sister, I forgot for a moment that the fruits of my labor is able to be of help for people. But for that moment, I was longing for wealth. And I started to become envious of her. The thing that rocked me, again, I use that word a lot because it just really, I realized, wow, I heard this voice saying, didn't you say you were going to do something with your mom? And all of a sudden I shifted from wanting something outside of me to realize, wait a minute, no, my responsibility is I've already said I'm going to do something with mom. And when I shared that with my sponsor, and I said, wow, I was able to hear what my responsibility is to be there for mom. And he said, Donna, that was also more for you to be reminded the role that you've been assigned. See, the world, power, money, and prestige, I sucked at it. Quite frankly, I really sucked at it. I didn't respect money. I didn't know how to show up and be consistent on anything. In the beginning, I had some success, but my low self-esteem and my obsession over alcohol and drugs interfered with any success I was really going to have. So I had a lot of starts and a lot of stops. But this attitude of knowing that I'm not alone, I'm not separate, I am connected with the one who has all power. And it's very important that I start my day feeding my mind that narrative. Well, the day there's just this knowing, I don't know. It's not anything that I'm doing. I'm not making an effort to feel this oneness. I understand now what Rashid would say, it never gets more complicated than one, because now 1 + 1 is 1. Me and God are one. And if I'm one with God, I'm one with you because we're all branches on this vine. But I was living my life like I was not on the vine. And we have this wonderful opportunity to bear fruits of love and compassion and understanding. You see this light so that we can encourage you. I don't think that I went through a life of despair and misery just to be okay in life. I think that we were spared so that we can go home while we're alive. I feel like I'm home, spirit, with God. And just be in position. See, when I lived my life needing, that attitude of I need, I can't be present. I can't be one with all, because my belief in the role you play in my life is one of taking. But if I feel like I am, my attitude is I am one with all, then it's more of a sharing, it's more of a giving, it's more of a acknowledging. We can acknowledge each other's pain because we've been there. We can give each other hope because we're experiencing it. See, I also have a mind that doesn't want me to be hopeful about anything. It always wants me to wait until it happens, or wait till the check's in the mail. Are you kidding me? If I come in here hopeless, maybe, see, it's interesting. There's a lot of things that have not come to fruition, but guess what? It's the hope of it that excites me, that gives me this wonderful feeling for life. And then all of a sudden, somebody calls me up. I don't even know they're going to call me. And guess what I do? I get on the phone and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so, but my mind, wait, don't get too excited because it might not happen. The liar. So I think that's really what we're doing for one another. We're giving each other hope. You know, for the person who's newly sober, newly clean, and doesn't know how to live, I'm like, you're damn right. You're right back where you started. And especially when we have a whole period of life where we weren't a part of life. I don't know what to do. How do I get back on the path of living? And it's definitely not the old way, because the old way didn't work. Maybe there's something new for me. And really all it is to be helpful. Have the time. It's interesting. I never had time. It's interesting when I did that exercise, it was amazing how much time I had right then. I was able to do some things that my mind was telling me it's going to take too long. See, spirit doesn't work in linear time. And especially now that I'm in this age group. See, now when I talk about old people, I got to say older because I'm in that age group. And my attitude would be totally different if I wasn't locked and loaded into this oneness with my creator. My body is going to start aging physically. My looks are going to age because that's going to happen with time. And the other bucket is money. Am I going to have enough to live until I die? Man, I'm so grateful that I have an opportunity to lean in. I'd be a nervous wreck. And I get to see that there's a whole nother segment of the population that I can help, the aging, afraid to die. I know what that's like. That came up on my inventory, afraid to die. I think for me, the attitude has to start with that I'm not living my life separate. I'm not separate from God. I'm not separate from you. And then I can feel the energy. I think there's really an energy that we get connected to because it's amazing that I don't live a life of fear like I did. I'm not holding on to wanting a different past because I don't appreciate where I am. I love the fact that I can hear when a thought wants me to start panicking, start whatever the thing is. I'm so glad I'm awakened to that. Can I pause in that? Most times I can pause. Sometimes I don't pause and I walk right in to the belief. And I realize that sometimes I'm supposed to walk in because maybe that's what something I need to learn, something I need to experience on a very deep level. I don't fight to be right. But this one time I did. I got so angry at my neighbor. And he walked out. Now here, this man was helping me when I got my hip replaced. He was helping me take care of my cats. And I had the nerve to be so disrespectful to him that he walked out. And all of a sudden I felt what anger does to people. It was a feeling that came over me. I saw how hurtful it is. I also experienced how it hurts me. Here it is. This person is helping me out, and being angry, I just put myself behind the 8 ball. And so I realized that sometimes I have these experiences that maybe I wasn't supposed to pause and not. God have all of me, good and bad. I don't know how I need to be taught. That was a real powerful experience, feeling anger, how hurtful it is. Be okay and not know. Yeah, I always get the sponsors that I get because right now I'm really at a point that I'm being okay or trying to be okay to not know. A spiritual exercise to do, and I'll answer. And he said, I said, sit with it, not what you think. And I get to do that with other people. That's not, I said this, go sit, go sit. I also realize it's okay to not respond right away. See, I used to respond right away because I wanted you to think I knew so much. But no, let me sit with that. Can I sit with things today until I'm clear? And sometimes I'm not clear. The answer hasn't come yet. Can I be okay and wait? Do I have an attitude of patience? These are all new principles that we discover. It's not like they've never been available to us, but we discover them. Been right in front of me and I couldn't see them. If I'm living my life inside, I love when we say I'm living in 10 and 11. Am I living inward? Because if my attitude, if my mental attitude and my emotional attitude has shifted, then my actions are going to be a result of that. And that was another thing I didn't understand when she would say, living life outside in, huh? But the more I do this work, the more it starts making sense. It ain't about catching up. You'll catch on. I think this whole deal for me, and maybe some of you believe the same thing, that everything that I went through was for me to be right here, right now. What an honor it is to be an agent for God, to be a messenger for God. Another fellowship calls us disciples, same thing. The energy has always been flowing through me. Filtered through my mind. And so the outpouring of it was different than it is today. And I see what is interfering with the flow, the natural flow of this energy. So after step 6, after my first fifth step, man, I felt the difference when I was impatient, when I was selfish. I felt it. That's the thing that's so awesome. The transformation happens in and through us, in spite of us. All of a sudden, wait a minute. Does it feel right? You know, I look at restless, irritable, and discontent. The way I was living, I was so far removed from a spiritual way of life. So those same behaviors that I thought it was who I was. And trust me, that's how I used to tell people, this is just who I am. Like, I'm proud of it. Take it or leave it. And I realized today, that's not who I am. It never was. You know, there's so much in our book, that icy intellectual mountain. No wonder I didn't know what love was. Compassion. And it helps me to warm up behavior of human beings. When I'm not relying on God, trust me, I need power over you. The only way that I can feel good about myself, I have to do something better than you. And if you do something better than me, I start hating you, being envious of you. But there's something that happens with this new attitude and outlook. We're able to look past people's behaviors and personalities. We can see if it's sadness, we can see sadness, not arrogancy, not why they're so mean. You know, thank God for being able to look at our own bedevilments on page 52. Or maybe that's how a lot of people are still living. This program has given me an opportunity to really look at life from an entirely different perspective. To have compassion. And I'm not a saint, trust me. Sometimes people annoy me. And I'm reminded, see, I can hear the voices of the teachers in my life. And I hear Gwen, she would say, God, please love them through me. And sometimes I gotta say to God, please love them through me, because on my own, I can't seem to. So the power is available in all areas of life. But am I willing to rely on it? Because belief in God is totally different than relying upon God. I have this powerlessness exercise, and I get to see, well, Donna, what are you trying to start doing in life that you can't seem to start doing? And what are you trying to stop doing? And it's the word trying. And I'm like, damn, I'm not relying on God because I'm still trying to manage it. I don't want to manage better because it only works when things are going my way. As soon as there's some hiccup, I cave. So the only way I'm gonna be successful managing, I have to hope that everything stays in alignment. But if I'm one with spirit, I can be okay. I think one of the biggest bits of freedom for me is not being attached to what people say. Oh, I was such a victim. Everything you said, I thought it, if you were mad at me, I thought that it was me. And the attitude today is you can say what you say because that's what you're saying. That's your belief. It doesn't have anything to do with my truth. What I think to me that was the biggest freedom, just to be able to be. It took a journey to learn how to be. It's just two letters of the alphabet, be, but it took a journey to get to this place. I love that I have a place, a refuge to lean into when doubt comes over, or when I believe that something is too difficult. Can I pause? I think another biggest gift is to pause and not go down that rabbit hole. Just pause. See, that also interferes with how my mind thinks about time. My mind never has me pausing. That was never part of my life, pausing. It was always do. So even pausing is a totally different attitude, a spiritual way of being paused. Let life unfold. If you're feeling a little irritated, don't follow it, pause. But because we're undisciplined and my mind was my God, I followed every little thing it wanted me to do. And I realized I can't serve two masters. Don't want to serve two masters. Don't want to serve the God of reason. I want to serve the God of spirit. The other day, when I say the other day, it doesn't necessarily mean like the other day, but I don't know how long ago, but it was a recent experience where some fear about financial stuff wouldn't subside. It kept happening, kept happening, kept happening. And I remember really believing and leaning in and saying, if I lose everything, I'm going to be okay. Man, did a peace wash over me. See, because there was no place for my ego to go with that. See, it wants me to be afraid of that. And I leaned in and said, you know what? I'm going to be okay if I don't know. So I'm starting as I stay on this path, and the more time I have established in this relationship with God, see, the more I experience, the more I can pass on, the more comfort I can give people. You're okay, you're right where you are. I hated when people said you're right where you are. I don't want to be here. We never want to be where we are. And it's interesting because this is a spiritual journey, but I want to be somewhere. Like where you think you're going? This is a whole new bag. So can I be in each moment? Just give me a 5-minute warning. 10 is going to be too much for me, whoever's doing the time. I'm very grateful too that I'm also connected with people because then I get an opportunity to see my attitude. You guys help me so much. That's how I learn to be loving, to be kind, to be patient. So I think that sometimes I can't beat myself up when I am not where I think I'm supposed to be in my interactions with people because maybe there was something about me that God needed for you to practice patience with me and vice versa. This is the part of the journey where it can't just be knowledge. Like to me, this never was about just knowing. Because if it was just about knowing, I wouldn't be able to share in a meeting about a change in outlook and attitude. I'm like, oh, well, what's that all about? And I also think that sometimes we don't have the words to really explain. It's like my mind can't explain what it did not manufacture. I can come close. Like I can come close to what happened on August 5th, 2000. I can come close to what happened to me on my first fit step when I was rendered speechless. Something just washed over me. There was such a comfort, such a warmth that I didn't want to leave it, but I can't come close to really explaining that. But just the mere fact that we can be in this meeting and say that there's going to be a change, that gives hope. But it ain't going to happen by osmosis. You just can't sit up here and come to these meetings and listen to people. And there's enough of us available to work with you. The thing that's so powerful for me is when COVID hit. So when I came in 2001, there weren't a lot of people in the big book, at least a lot of people, I didn't know a lot of people that was in the big book. And here it is, people taking people to the book line by line, taking people to the book, taking, and then COVID hits, and it's all of these messengers in position for goddamn. See, I went to some meetings, and there was a lot of people that were in fear. And then they found their way. I saw Ralph on here, Ralph's meeting on Sunday, Bronx Big Book every night. There's enough of us in position when we all need to come together globally. People that had been sitting around a fellowship, no change. I don't know what that's like to be sitting and hearing people that are talking about these promises and not feeling them. But what a wonderful opportunity when you come to these meetings. And that's for those of you that have had experience, please raise your hand and share in the meeting. Let people know that, let them see and hear the it in you so they know who to call. I can't just sit in these meetings and take. We're here to give. And we're all on this path, but it's a personal journey for each and every one of us. But like the big book says, we want to hear from those that are getting results. So right then and there, they're telling me if I'm willing to go to any length, something should happen. So allow that something to happen for you. Make all that pain, misery, and despair. Get it from a perspective of now I see why that was necessary. I had to get to a place of jumping off point so I can seek a life that I was meant to live in this lifetime. Most people don't get to connect with their creator until they're about to die. Huh. Huh. We get to seek this relationship. So while we're here, let's be that light. Let's help. So thank you all for having me here. I always feel like my shares are, there's a pleading to them. Pleading. So thank you.
Thank you, Donna. That was a beautiful share. I absolutely